Hi, my name is Palesa Madumo. I am the convener of the 2021 PRISM Awards, Africa's most sought after public relations award. I am also your host for a very special 10-part series called Byline, where I will be chatting to different people from the industry, finding out what is and is not working within our industry. Follow me and my guest on Twitter and, of course, the PRISM Awards on @the PRISM Awards, and tag us and interact with us as we have this conversation today. Today, my guest is Herman Manson, who is the founder of Mark Lives. He joins us virtually today, all the way from the Eastern Cape. Hi, Herman, or Herman. How are you doing?
Well, thanks, and I appreciate the opportunity to chat to you a little bit about media relations and Mark Lives today.
Absolutely. So you're an established business journalist and a media commentator. I just want to find out from you, just to kick us off, what is the relationship between media and PR? What is it looking like today?
Well, I think I think if we can agree on the function of media relations, there's lots of it's easy to find common ground between public relations practitioners and the media. Obviously, media relations is an aspect of public relations that focuses on the relationship between the company or organization that you represent and the media. Um, and I think, from my perspective, the role of the media relations practitioner is obviously creating awareness around stories that's relevant to the journalist, either their beat or the kind of feature stories that they are writing, to build profile for your clients, to build out credibility in the media space for those clients, and obviously to build out communications with stakeholders, including community, the industry, um, uh, and their partners. So
Absolutely.
for me, the role of a media relations practitioner is really to ensure a smooth flow of communication between those that represent in the media, um, and in assisting clients in communicating information efficiently. And with that as a basis, I think we share a common goal in keeping people informed on the one hand, and also ensuring a flow of information and communication.
Absolutely. So, how important is a platform like Mark Lives for the industry, the entire communications industry, particularly in this day and age?
Maybe I'll tell you a little bit about Mark Lives, and that will give you a sense of the role we owe to play. Um, and maybe I'll actually start um, by by quickly just telling you how we got our name, because it says a lot about what we want to achieve as a platform. Um, so I was taking a break from journalism, but I still wanted to stay in touch with my audience. Um, and at the time, I was uh, I was thinking about journalism, the type of journalism I wanted to practice, and about how business journalism specifically. I'd lost track of what is important to any business or industry, namely its people, whether they are customers or employees or stakeholders. And I named Mark specifically, because I wanted to remind myself as a writer to put people at the center of my stories. And the Mark and Mark lives represent those people. So it's every time I think of the site, it reminds me it reminds me of where we need to focus. It was nice that there was a connection to marketing and making your mark and brand marks. But for me, Mark lives here on this website as a home for stories about people in the industry. And it comes from a belief that there's still real value in journalism to readers, to stakeholders, and to the broader industry. So we wanted to create a piece of industry infrastructure that helps curate knowledge as well as shared insights that ensures value and that offers news with a real editorial angle. And basically, I did this because I saw a gap in the market for credible reporting on the industry, for creating a journalism-driven narrative about the market and industry, and because I believe that by investing in journalism, when others have lost faith in its value, we can create something of substance.
I love what you're saying. It's quite traditional and it's quite rooted in something that's quite important, which is the story itself and storytelling. With the increase of social media platforms like TikTok, and we've seen now Clubhouse, how does this affect your view on journalism and on storytelling, especially considering that stories are being told by the authors themselves, and everyone is an author today?
So, I mean, I guess that comes down to what many people now kind of talk about citizen journalism, and you know, some people call them influencers or content creators. I think that I want to kind of be careful with the terminology and create a little bit of space between what I consider to be journalism and what I guess we could call what people refer to as citizen journalism. Now, obviously, people can and should participate in creating media. They've been doing so for as long as journalism has been practiced or media has been produced. This isn't new. But journalism is a career. You are not a citizen doctor because you post a self-diagnosis on Facebook. You're not a citizen architect because you designed the layout of your own house. It doesn't mean that you're not capable of designing your own house. It just doesn't make you an architect.
Sure.
I'm not saying that people can't become reporters or journalists, but creating a piece of content or capturing a news event on video doesn't make you a journalist or reporter. So lots of people are creating content. Some of them are journalists. I like that people are able to access information more broadly. I like that there are more voices to choose from. I'm worried about the tone that a lot of that news and information take. I worry that it might be prone to being swayed by vested interests. I worry about the sheer volume of information and how it affects our ability to filter through the noise. Of course, journalism itself is also experiencing a sense of crisis. And what it means to be a journalist outside of it being a career path is something that the journalists themselves are grappling with. But I do believe that there's a difference between content creation slash influencer slash citizen journalism and the practice, the career of being a journalist.
That's quite true, and thanks for sharing that. On your platform, there seems to be a slight slant towards advertising. Would you say that's public relations' fault?
So we cover the advertising and marketing industry, and that's the core focus of our coverage. And obviously, public relations communications is a part of that. In terms of uh, of how public relations impacts on the content that we carry, I think for myself, I've built wonderful relationships with a number of media relations practitioners. They've tended to be be individuals working in the industry or smaller agencies, um, and they've established a relationship with us over a number of years. So, they generally have a working knowledge of how media and journalists operate. They put a premium on facilitating access rather than stonewalling or kind of denying comment. They are aligned in their in how they value content, in terms of quantity over quality, in terms of owned versus earned. Um, um, they target the news that they send across. So it's not a one broad mailing list distributing news to a lot of platforms at the same time. They see the value of targeting specific platforms, um, uh, and that they focus on honest, transparent communication, and uh, that builds mutual trust and respect, um, and it makes it easy, an easy two-way street in terms of communication, our ability to access the people that they represent, because we know that they will really make an effort to ensure that that communication flows is smooth, and they know that the they know us, so it becomes we're accessible. We're accessible because we've built a relationship. I guess that's basically what it comes down to. And for me, that is what defines success in terms of the relationship between media relations practitioners and journalists.
I mean, is that a bit of constructive criticism, particularly to PRPs? We have been accused of spraying and praying, which is that mass mailing that you're referring to. Are you saying that moving forward, you feel that there's a great strength in building relationships and actually honing or creating content for specific platforms versus trying to get as much coverage as possible?
I think that it you're right. I think if we can align uh, and agree that what will really create value for everybody is if every time you send out a media release, that a media relations practitioner asks themselves, am I offering value to the media? And this is the addition, am I targeting media outlets that focuses on offering value? And it's where those two overlap, uh, where content really gains traction and value. Everything else is just noise. So, I would really, I would really encourage um, PR agencies to kind of set that as a point of departure, and there are ways of making it easier. One of them would be proper media training by people that's actually worked in newsrooms, that know how the media works and operates. Um, Usually they are former journalists. Get those people into your organizations, and don't put them on a single client. Allow your entire team to access that knowledge that they have. Uh, know your market. Um, that does actually mean reading the media that you distribute to, um, and um, and focus um, on building relationships that goes beyond the short-term imperative of getting a news item published. And I think if PR agencies are kind of are willing to embrace that, um, it it will offer a greater value to their clients, and will definitely contribute positively to the relationship between them and the media platforms whose audiences you are keen to access on behalf of clients.
That is sound advice. I couldn't have honestly put it any better way. Um, we've seen, unfortunately, the closure of quite a few platforms, particularly last year. Actually, it's not just media platforms, but also PR and advertising consultancies. From a media perspective, and I think generally from a content and communication perspective, what would you say is important to future-proof what you do moving forward?
Well, it's a very good question, and I think it's one that the media industry has been struggling with for a long time. I think media houses have long faced various structural issues that they've struggled to overcome, um, and they range from costs of production to limited distribution of options, the collapse of postal services, um, the juniorization of the newsroom, the rise of clickbait. The list goes on. We've seen a general hollowing out of newsrooms. We've faced with inflexible organizational design, with revenue models that's predominantly tied to advertising in an age of media fragmentation, which makes it all the more vulnerable to disruption. We've seen the disempowerment of employees in large organizations, which leads to a lack of diversity in ideas on how to solve these issues.
Yeah.
We've been struggling with an inability to embrace an entrepreneurial mindset. Um, we are faced with shared cost centers that actually becomes a liability to individual titles, because they are unable to opt out or take less expensive options, making costs more difficult to manage, ironically. Um, we've seen a lack of real leadership in large media organizations, especially. as they've shifted their focus to technology, to e-commerce, to software plays, they've left behind their media brands um, uh, and the audiences that those media brands have built. I think a lot of innovation will be driven by newer, smaller, more nimble players and entrepreneurs. Um, I think to ensure a sustainable future, media organizations will have to embrace a culture of innovation and collaboration, of empowering the people that work in media to help come up with solutions, of a management style that's willing to buy into those ideas, that actually values experience and service and is willing to invest money back into that. Um, uh, and I think that's the only way the industry will be able to future-proof itself.
Hmm. Hmm. That's interesting. Thank you, Herman. I think just in closing, I'm very, very interested, having had this conversation with you, to hear your opinion on the cool kids, the new kids on the block, the influencers, the people who reign supreme, on the Twitter streets and, on Instagram and everywhere. Um, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and also, again, some of that great advice that you could give in terms of creating quality content that actually makes a positive impact.
I'm very much in two minds um, about how to view the embrace of influences by brands to communicate uh, to an audience. I think it's obviously part of a communication strategy. I don't think we should confuse that with media relations, which is actually uh, focused uh, on building relationships with media platforms. Now, obviously, some influencers have created significant audiences and have become media brands in themselves. And I don't want to discount those, but we have seen a kind of a rise in an interest in micro influencers. Um, but it's one of those scenarios where too much uh, of uh, of a good thing kind of becomes less valuable. Um, and I think the audiences have savvied up um, to the fact that a lot of the communication that they receive from influencers are paid for. Um, and I think you will see more skepticism. I think you will see less engagement. Um, I mentioned earlier, I think it's fantastic that more people are creating content. I think it's great that more people people have access to a broader range of views. Um, there's and at one stage, I think maybe the thinking was that that would detract from more traditional kind of media environment. But I think the opposite's actually happened is that due to this volume of information, this volume of communication, our inability to filter through all of it, um, uh, the fact that so much of it have fallen victim to disinformation, and again, the media is the media industry isn't exempt from that. Um, but it has created an opportunity for uh, for media brands um, to reestablish their platforms as credible. But it would mean for media organizations, it would mean finding different way of measuring success. Um, uh, um, and I think, we've been measuring success in terms of the number of views a story gets, the number of likes, the kind of a focus on social media engagement, um, which has led to the rise of clickbait, which in turn has diminished the value of media brands. So we need to undo that. Um, but I think the opportunity exists, and in a way, things are going to go full circle. We there'll be less of a reliance on influencers to 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 do more than sell product, um, uh, which seems to kind of be what's been driving that interest. And the role of media is not to sell product. The role of media is to ensure access to information. So it's very different horses, and um, I know that that distinction is blurred substantially, and that is the fault of media organizations. But um, I think we will see that separate out again, uh, and hopefully we will we will see media organizations rethinking um, their their role and their opportunity in the market, um, after after really blurring um, uh, what what they stand for, to the extent where uh, people have become really cynical about media brands.
Herman, thank you very much for what has been an interesting and insightful conversation. That's it from this episode of Byline Herman Manson. Remember to follow this series right here. There's a saying that says, "Those who tell stories rule the world." Goodbye.